thank you to VanDyk Mortgage and especially the Miller team for today. Let's get started. Good morning, everyone, and thank you again for letting me, jump in with you today. So, welcome to making pre-listing inspections work for you. The whole point is the inspection strategy designed to help keep listing agents, sellers in control instead of the buyers or at the mercy of inspectors or insurance companies. And what do I mean by that? I mean, you probably have had this happen before. You get a buyer lined up, the offer looks solid, and then bam, the inspection comes back with a list that turns into a grenade. Or worse, the insurance report throws a surprise and suddenly you're in damage control instead of heading to the closing table. That's why we're talking about pre-listing inspections. Not the easy version you might have heard about in passing, but a system built specifically to protect sellers, protect you, and take the leverage out of the buyer's inspector's hands. It isn't about stopping negotiations, it's about resetting them so you stay in control, not at the mercy, again, of an outside inspector or an insurance carrier. My name is Vito Bianca. I'm a master inspector, mold assessor, pest control operator, lead-based paint inspector, CE course provider for home inspectors and real estate agents. And what we've done, what we're doing today is the basis of data collected over 30,000 inspections that we've done. And what we want is to provide you access with the solutions that we've built over the course of gathering that data today. So let me ask you, how many of you have had a deal in the past year either get complicated or stall out because of an inspection or an insurance issue? Here's the reality we're all living in right now. It's just not easy to get buyers. There doesn't seem to be enough buyers to go around. On top of that, buyers inspectors are coming in more aggressive than ever. They're over-reporting issues, they're magnifying small problems, many of which end up on the 4-point inspection and leave you stuck in the middle trying to hold a deal together. And if that wasn't enough, insurance hurdles have never been higher. Carriers are saying no to things that would have passed just a few years ago, which means even when you've got the buyer and the seller on the same page, the deal can still collapse at the 11th hour. And again, that's 11th hour. That's well after the inspection period. That seems to be the world we're living in and working in lately. And
Are you seeing a lot of this? Are most of these situations coming up prior to closing versus after the closing?
We're seeing both, honestly. We're seeing what we're really seeing is that application for insurance is happening more and more after the inspection period. So most of the agents we've spoken to have been trained, and historically it worked. You get the inspection, you get the 4-point, there's 4-point issues, you get them fixed, you have a clean 4-point after the repair addendum and everything else. It's after the inspection period now. You submit the application and then kickbacks come back, or the premiums are out of control. And now that's where the scrambling is. Or it could be during the inspection period with a inspector who's trying to gatekeep the report or thinking he's a consumer advocate instead of an objective reporter. In all cases, somebody's lost their objectivity or doesn't know what their roles are in this. And our agent partners, many of them come to us having never been trained to actually pick up the phone first and talk to the insurance agent and see what's going to jam them up later. So it's a great question, and it's one that I appreciate, Sean. The question becomes, what can we do now to protect our sellers and protect ourselves in this kind of environment? So the big answer historically has been pretty simple. Have the seller inspect the home before it ever hits the market. Now, when sellers do that, a few powerful things happen. Problems get fixed early, on their terms, not under the gun of a contract deadline. The home hits the market move-in ready instead of loaded with unknowns. And then most importantly, it keeps the listing agent in control of the process instead of handing that control over to the buyer's inspector. Now, on paper, this should solve a lot of the pain points we just talked about. Faster closings, more confident buyers, fewer last-minute surprises. But here's the catch. The way pre-listing inspections are usually done right now don't actually deliver on that promise. And it's not that agents are doing anything wrong, it's that the tool itself, the way it's typically offered in our industry, is broken. Having a full home inspection or a one-off 4-point just doesn't solve the problems we're up against. And that's why so many agents try pre-listings once, feel burned, and never do it again. And that's the gap we're here to close today by showing you how to turn pre-listing inspections into a true strategic tool, not just another box to check.
And something I want to point out, like, so for the agents on this call, make sure, like, if you're on the buy side, that you're getting, the 4-point inspection and wind mitigation inspection over to the homeowner's insurance agent. Like, so like on any transactions of ours, like we'll get a quote from Florida Best Quote for insurance, and then we'll loop the 4-point, and wind mit that comes over from the inspector into an email to them to make sure that they review everything before you're out of your inspection period. So, and if we happen not to be the lender, I mean, get a relationship with an insurance agent that's, responsive, so you can send, Vito's 4-point and wind mit over to them just to make sure, there's no issues just with how strict, some of these companies are being.
That's a great point, Sean. And we've actually taken to building that language into our home inspection reports and narratives. Something as simple as, hey, this is technically okay, maybe an issue when it gets to the carrier, talk to your insurance agent now. And yeah, great point. So this is what now we're at what I like to call the false choice that agents face. And here's the bind most agents find themselves in. Option A is the 4-point inspection only. But that's a fail, and I'm going to explain why. It was never designed to be for defect recognition. It's not meant to really describe conditions. It's only an insurance checklist. It doesn't transfer, and reporting is inconsistent across different inspectors. Having just a 4-point done will only leave you without a defense because the buyers will hold up a very different report and they'll do it every time. It doesn't protect your seller and it won't protect you. Now, option B is the full home inspection. My feeling is it's kind of overkill. It's expensive for the seller. It still leaves the buyer's inspector in the driver's seat, and it can actually create more headaches because on the one hand, it's going to introduce a long list of items that don't necessarily matter for insurability or for the deal, and the buyer's inspector is still going to have a different opinion. So what are you left with? The false choice. Either tool by itself leaves your seller exposed and leaves you holding the bag. And that's why in practice, sellers still lose control even when they try to do the right thing. The truth is, the pre-listing inspection model is broken when it's treated like just another box to check. It becomes way more useful when it's turned into a strategic tool that's built to solve the specific problems we're facing in today's market. So, I mean, honestly, even when agents try pre-listing inspections, they often walk away disappointed. And if you felt that way, you're not wrong. Here's why most pre-listings are going to fail in practice. And we've touched on this, but just to lay it out clearly. First, the buyer's inspectors always shows up with a different list. No matter how good your pre-listing report is, another inspector will find something new. And the moment that happens, credibility gets questioned. Suddenly, the seller's looking at you, wondering if that money you spent on preparing them was wasted. And second, this is what I call the 4-point paradox. Even if the seller fixes every single 4-point item from the first report, the buyer's inspector is usually going to include a bunch of things on their insurance form that don't belong there at all. Why is that? Because there are no real standards, none. Inspectors are great at spotting defects, but most are not trained to exercise judgment on what belongs on an insurance application versus a home inspection. There's no training for filters. Um, that's why aggressive or sloppy insurance inspections have become one of the biggest complications in the market. And pre-listing inspections alone don't fix that unless it's done the right way. And third, credibility. You lose it. When deals stumble, buyers and sellers aren't going to blame the inspector. They blame you, the agent, for recommending something that didn't work. And that's not just frustrating, it's damaging. So it's no wonder a lot of agents have tried this pre-listing stuff once, felt burned, and decided never to do it again. And the truth is, the way most people do it, they're right. It doesn't work the way it should. So if the old way of doing pre-listing inspections doesn't work, what does? Now, this is where solutions come in, and we've built something that has been working. I call it a system because it's not just another inspection report, it's a process built by inspectors specifically to fix the gaps that have been killing deals. Here's how it works. First, we start with a basic inspection for the seller. It isn't a laundry list of every cosmetic blemish. Think of it as major items only, the real issues that are going to matter to sellers, buyers, and insurers. Think of it as a true major items only report that gives the seller a clear roadmap and manageable repairs instead of overwhelming them with noise. And as you'll see, it actually sets up the buyer's inspector to strengthen your position. Second, we include a transferable 4-point wind mitigation report. This is critical. It means that once repairs are made, the home goes on the market insurance ready, and the report can follow the property to the buyer. A weaponized buyer's 4-point can no longer hold the transaction hostage.
And you're referring to you can transferable being you'll put it in the buyer's name.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, because
Correct.
some of the insurance companies care about that, and some, well, a lot of them do want it in the buyer's name now. So, okay, cool.
By the time it goes to the insurance agent, it's a clean report, freshly dated in the buyer's name. So any concessions you choose to offer as a seller are done at that point as a courtesy from a position of strength. No surprises, no appeasements, no arguments, and no loss of control. Third, and this is more internal and on the back end as your defense. I mentioned how there are no standards or for how inspections, 4-point inspections are done. They're not. There's just a form. There's also no deficiency defining protocol for what actually belongs on that form and what doesn't. It's why you get such a wide spectrum. Um, but but I wrote some and I got it approved as coursework for home inspectors through the state of Florida, Florida DBPR. So so our inspectors they don't have to throw everything they see onto the insurance form. We follow those proprietary standards. They're vetted, they're defensible, and they're built to stop inspector overreach. And that's what keeps the 4-point credible. It's what protects your seller and it protects your reputation, especially when the buyer's inspector tries to hold up the transaction.
Hey,
It,
Vito, what's the rule of thumb now for when to get a 4-point and a wind mitigation inspection done? Like, because back in the day, I mean, previously I would say you don't need a 4-point, you need a 4-point if it's over 20 years old, and then get a wind mitigation inspection if there's a newer roof on the home. So, do you know the rule of thumb?
I know what it's always been historically, and that's been about 20 years, but don't hold to that. If you're buying a house, get it because somebody somewhere, depending on the carrier, is going to insist no matter what. Unless it's like new construction, you could probably get away with a wing. But everything has been so I'll call it evolving. Everything's been evolving, and it's better to have it than not have it.
Even if the house is like built in 2020, still just go ahead.
I would. If you're not the first owner, I would.
Okay.
Now, if you're buying new construction, that's different. You
Yeah.
get the wind mit, you move on.
And Vito, we have a hand raised in the chat. That would be
Great.
Miss Daphne. So go ahead with your question.
Hi.
Hey, Daphne.
Hi. Whenever you're saying that we could get on the seller, for the seller, we can get the 4 point in the WIDMIT transferred to the buyer's name. Is there a time frame on that? Because say we get it, the house sits in the market for 3 months, 6 months, anything could happen in 3 to 6 months. So
Correct.
how's that handled?
That's an excellent question, Daphne. And if anyone didn't hear that, she wants to know if there's a time frame on the transferability of a 4 point. And typically reasonable time is 3 months. If it goes a little longer, now we're asking if conditions have changed. And mind you, it's not just when we do the initial inspection because we're going to find issues, right? So let's say the water heater's 20 years old and that we know that's going to jam you up, or the roof has damage and has to get repaired. Well, at that point, we just do a reinspection. There's a clean 4 point generated with all the repairs made. It's not likely to change at that point. You see what I'm saying? Now we've got a little time to play with. So while I will use 90 days or even 120 days as rule of thumb, this is more about a reasonable person's standard, and I'm trust your inspector to make that call with you.
And if they're like, using yours the next time, you already have already all the pictures taken and all that. So if you just need to go out, like, can you do it for like a lesser amount if it's 120 days down the road, if you already got all the pictures and all photos and all that?
Are you talking about amending the 4 point report, updating it?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yes.
Oh, if it's remote, it's for free. If it's just a foot, like for minor fixes,
Yeah.
P traps, easy stuff, handyman level repairs, or even contractor repairs, most of the time that can be updated for free.
Okay.
If we have to go back because it was complex, or frankly it was the 4 point happened to be so bad that it would just be easier to redo the inspection, well then yeah,
Yeah.
then we charge a small
Okay.
reinspection fee.
Cool.
That's a great question, Daphne. You too, Sean. Thank you. So basic home inspection, transferable 4 point and wind. We fix and document the fixes. You get to reset the negotiations, and you have defensible standards backing you up. Put it all together, and what you have isn't just a service, it's leverage. It's designed to neutralize weaponized inspections, lock down insurability, and keep you in control of the deal. So what does this actually mean for you as the agent? Here's what you gain when you use a pre-listing system. First, control of the narrative. You decide how inspections shape the deal, not the buyer's inspector. That's a huge shift in leverage. And what I mean by that is, imagine now you have this basic inspection, major items only. Your seller fixes it. You have the receipts from the contractors who did it. Now, all of that, if you choose to, is offered in disclosure as transparency. There is nothing to find. You are now separated from the comps. You're the one who's actually prepared the home, not just a flipper. You have documentation. That's number one. That kind of segues into the second point. It protects credibility. With the reports backing you up, you never have to stand alone in front of a frustrated seller or a skeptical buyer. The report speaks for you and it stands. And third, surprises. There's less of them. Insurance hurdles and repair demands are handled up front on your terms without 11th hour drama because everything's been done in advance. And that's it. Finally, smoother closings. When homes are pre-inspected and insurable, deals are going to move faster. A buyer who really wants the home and this is critical, a buyer who really wants the home isn't going to fight over the minor issues their inspector piled on the 4 point, especially not when you've already removed the obstacles and say, hey, this is ready to go. If you want it, I'll just, we can skip that whole step, and here's a transferable form written by the people who actually wrote the book with the state of Florida. I, I, we've seen it. Um, I'll just take a quick aside. I have a, a partnership, a long working relationship, would say, with a veteran real estate agent who primarily does listings. And man, he used to try to micromanage the process and get everything tied down, and the insurance part was killing him for these reasons that we talked about. I finally convinced him to trust me and do it this way, and boy, he was sold on the first one. It made his life easy. Once he knew how to use that refutation with the transferable 4 point, it was like, now he won't go anywhere else. That's the beauty of it. But I will add this. This is a tool for agents who play to win, not for those who are going to leave control to chance. If you're willing to step up and use the tools, it becomes one of the sharpest competitive edges you can bring to a listing. So let's bring it full circle. We started with what everyone knows too well. Deals get complicated by aggressive buyers, inspections, weaponized 4 points, and last-minute insurance surprises. And what we've shown today is that pre-listing inspections don't have to be just another box to check. When they're done the old way, they fail. But when you use the Rishi pre-listing system, it can become a true strategic tool, one that resets negotiations, protects your credibility, and keeps you in control of the sale. Remember this, if nothing else. Pre-listings doesn't end negotiation, it resets it. And if you can control the reset, you can control your outcomes. To me, the choice is simple. You can leave that control to chance, or you can step into it. The agents who win in this market are the ones who play to win.
Okay, my question was mostly geared towards, let's say, for instance, if they've already closed the transaction, if the buyers rather have moved into the property and found something wrong with the property that was not addressed in the inspection report, could there be any kind of liability for them relying on this transferable inspection as opposed to obtaining their own? That was my question.
That is an amazing question, but not necessarily for the reason you think, Esther. The answer is none. There's no liability because the only report that transfers to the buyer is the 4 point in wind. There is no liability on a 4 point in wind. And if you look right on the 4 point at the top, and this is citizens language, it says, be advised that this form will only be used for insurability. It's not a warranty, guarantee of the fitness, longevity, or suitability of any of the systems inspected. That's the big disconnect. Most real estate agents are surprised when they learn. The 4 point form, as for inspection, for liability, for protection, isn't worth the paper it's printed on, and it's not written for that. It only has one use: for the insurance carrier to assess risk and a premium. That's it. All we're doing, the home inspection is where it matters. We've given that to the seller, not the buyer. The only thing that's going to transfer is a 4 point to facilitate your closing and refute overly aggressive buyer's inspections. Does that make sense?
It does, but what if it's a situation where it's not related to the 4 point or the mid report, and let's say, for instance, as an example, cracks in the hairline, cracks in the foundation or something like that
Right?
was missed for XYZ reason. would that be something that could come back to bite the seller's side to
No,
include the real estate agent?
no, and I'll say this right now. First of all, hairline cracks are not are not a major item and they don't belong in a basic inspection. They're not, and here Florida has a definition, and so does Internachi, who also writes the coursework for Florida. Significantly, the home inspection report is only required to identify items that are significantly deficient or at the end of their service lives. Significantly deficient means not operating in the manner they're supposed to, not capable of performing their intended function, or pose an unreasonable risk to the building occupants during normal day-to-day use. A hairline crack has no business. That's a prime example of how inexperienced inspectors lack the judgment and the maturity to properly report in context the issues that they're seeing. So a basic inspection, if it's only material items, items that are significantly deficient, don't belong on that report. It's
Gotcha.
right. And then I'll follow up with this definition too. Material defect is something that's going to have a severe negative impact on the value of the property or pose an unreasonable risk to people. And a hairline crack isn't going to do that at all. For it to be really worthy, there has to be some indication, some either by how much of them, if they're widespread, how wide they are, and then it has to have been, the cause has to be identified before you know if it's serious. The cracks themselves are not an indication that any of those actions are warranted. And that's where most inspectors kind of drop the ball in articulating that context. Great question.
Very good. Thanks a lot. I do appreciate your presentation and your answers.
Thank you, Esther. I want to thank everybody for your time today. I look forward to helping you use this tool to strengthen your listings, protect your deals, and keep your closings moving forward.